Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, Ihdina sirata mustaqim, Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim, Ghayril maghdubi alayhim, waladdallin, Ameen. Praise be to Allah. We seek his help and forgiveness. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil of our own souls and from our bad deeds. Whomsoever Allah guides will never be led astray. And whomsoever Allah leads astray, no one can guide. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, the one having no partner, and I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and is his slave and his messenger. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Today's topic for our Taaleem is the power of gratitude. I trust and pray that you all can see my screen without issue. On behalf of the Masjid Al-Taqwa Taaleem Committee, Drs. Gloria Bashir and Aisha Alamin, I want to welcome you to today's Taaleem. I'm excited to be with you as usual. Today, again, we're going to talk about the power of gratitude. And I delivered this presentation almost a year ago today, but I've revised it a little bit because there's some things that I felt like I left out, some concepts and topics that I left out the last time that I delivered this presentation. I want to start by just walking you quickly through the agenda, and it's going to have to be a little bit fast-paced and a little bit abbreviated because we are short on time. And so I'm going to just talk a little bit about the connection between gratitude and Islam. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about some of the barriers that we face as human beings, but more specifically as citizens of the United States. I'm also going to talk about the benefits of gratitude, and inshallah, we're going to end off by talking about the manner in which we can grow our gratitude, that we can exercise our gratitude muscle. For some of us, being gracious and having a grateful heart comes easy. It's part of our disposition, it's part of our family, our personality, excuse me. But for others of us, gratitude requires a level of intentionality. And so we're going to talk about how we as believers become more intentional about expressions of gratitude and how we can become more grateful-minded and grateful-hearted. So let me start by just talking about the three different types of gratitude. And I want to highlight one in particular because as Muslims, this is what we should be shooting for. So when we think about the different types of gratitude, we're talking about affective gratitude, affective, starting with an A, not an E. We're talking about mood, and we're also talking about emotion. And so when we're talking about affective gratitude, we're talking about our overall disposition. This is how we feel throughout the day. This is how we sort of interact with those that we encounter. If we are effectively grateful, again, that's a description of our personality, right? It is kind of who we are at our core. We also recognize, though, that when it comes to gratitude, that our levels or intensity of gratitude will fluctuate throughout the day. What does that mean? That means, for example, you might have an experience that puts you in a more grateful mood. So, for example, I know personally that after I make salat, I feel more grateful, right? It's that reminder that Allah has blessed me in so many ways, numerous ways. And so when I finish making salat, I usually feel more grateful in that moment, right? There's also the sort of the emotion of gratitude, which is more fleeting, it's more temporary. And what do I mean by that? That means that if someone gives you a gift, right, they surprise you with the gift, or they do a favor or something for you, you might feel temporarily grateful. But again, we don't want to experience just temporary gratitude. As Muslims, we want to be grateful all the time. We want to have an affective level of gratitude, meaning that our overall disposition is one of gratitude, that when we talk to our loved ones, when we talk to our friends, when we interact with our colleagues at work, when we're reflecting on our daily experiences, we're reflecting on those experiences with a grateful heart. Now, I began this presentation talking about the connection between Islam and gratitude. And it's very clear that you cannot have or think about or conceptualize Islam without having a deep understanding of gratitude, right? It is a cornerstone, if you will, a foundational element of Islam. In fact, there are no less than 15 ayats that deal with this concept or this topic of gratitude. Surah Al-Baqarah says, "So remember me, and I will remember you, and be grateful to me, and do not deny me." Sadaqallah al-Adin, surely Allah speaks the truth. And Allah continues in Surah Al-Ibrahim, and remember when your Lord proclaimed, if you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor. And so when we think about the intersection, if you will, between Islam and gratitude, what we find is that they are indispensable to each other. As a matter of fact, we know that that Allah in delivering and blessing us with this beautiful way of life, this beautiful religion that we call al-Islam, that we are consistently reminded of the importance of gratitude, and that Allah has mercied us by giving us multiple ways to express our gratitude, right? We know that Salah is probably the one that immediately comes to mind when we think about the ways in which we give thanks to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? We make Salah 5 times a day. Those are 5 obligatory prayers, but we know that there are optional prayers, if you will, that we can also offer, right? That allows us to express gratitude to Allah. We know that we can also express our gratitude through charity, right? We know that we can express our gratitude through fasting, right? So there's these multiple opportunities, making dua, right? There's just an abundance of opportunities for us to express gratitude to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we want to be clear that we don't engage in, and I've heard Imam Tariq say this on multiple occasions, that we don't engage in what I think he calls a mindless devotional obedience, right? Mindless devotional obedience, meaning that we don't want that our expressions of gratitude, particularly our salat, right? We don't want that to be just performative, right? Like we don't want to just go to our prayer rug and stand before Allah because we have to, right? Like, and it's difficult sometimes, and we're all human beings, and we are of this world, right? We live in a country that is where Islam is not a part of the fabric of society, right? We don't hear the adhan called publicly. We sometimes get bogged down with the trappings of the world, whether it be social media or entertainment, mindless entertainment, Netflix, fill in the blank. We all sometimes fall victim to those things. And I guess I'll speak for myself that the prayer comes in on your Muslim Pro app, and I don't know if I always pop up, right? Jump up and say, "Ooh, it's time to make prayer." I don't always go to Salat with that type of energy, but that's a goal that we all should have, right? We should have in our minds that, hey, I don't have to make Salat, I get to make Salat, right? That Allah chose to put me on the Sirat al-Mustaqim. He chose me for this deen, right? He called me to this deen, and I should be immensely grateful for that. That I should be coming to Salat doing backflips, right? I should be so excited that I get a chance to stand before Allah and offer my thanks and offer my gratitude, and that we should do so with a heart that is just filled with appreciation, filled with thankfulness. And it's also important to remember as we talk about Salat, and for those of you who don't know, we've been meeting on Saturday mornings at around 6:30 for a class where we're talking about Muslim beliefs and just sort of acts of faith, and just breaking down what's required of us as Muslims. And we've been spending a lot of time talking about Salat, and I encourage all of you who can to either attend in person or attend virtually. But it's when we think about the importance of Salat, one of the things we have to remind ourselves of is it's not for Allah, right? That Salat is for us. Right, it's for us. And I think when we remember that, when we're mindful of that reality, that Allah doesn't need us to make salat, right? He doesn't need us to make salat, but we need us to make salat, right? We need to be making salat for ourselves, and we need to be making salat for each other. We need to be making salat for our community. And with that, if we think of it that way, then maybe it'll be a little bit easier for us, right? Those of us who may struggle with that dedication and that commitment, and those of us who struggle with making sure that the performance of salat is not simply a performance, but it is an act that is done with deep devotion and deep care and deep commitment. If we can think of it that way, it might help us to reframe this concept of salat. One of the things that Allah says in the Quran is why would God cause you to suffer if you are grateful and you believe? If you have a grateful heart, Allah is not going to cause you to suffer, right? But that's a big if, though, right? This notion that, hey, if I can be a sinner, I can commit sins, but if I come to Allah with a grateful heart, if I come to Allah with sincere prayers and sincere gratitude, right, with an attitude of gratitude, that Allah will forgive us and take care of us. That's so much power and liberation. And I don't know if you feel it. I mean, I can't see your faces, right? I don't know if you feel it, but when I read that, right, when I read, why would God cause you to suffer if you are grateful and believe? Right? When I read that and I interpret it, right, I interpreted that, look, if I believe, I don't keep doing the same things over and over again that I know are wrong. I don't keep committing the same sins, like that I'm moving and I'm living in this deen with a degree of sincerity. If I'm truly sincere, then Allah will forgive me. Imam Rabbani said something at Juma on Friday when he talked about how for the Muslim, that once we make shahada, like there's some peace that comes with that, right? Like despite everything that's happening in the world, whether it's electoral politics or is violence in the streets, whatever it is that we experience in this world that causes us to feel discomfort, for Muslims, we can lean on this peace that comes with our belief in this deen. Right, we can lean on this peace that comes with this mercy that Allah has given us. And so this particular ayah, it stands out to me, right? Because I interpret it to mean that Allah is going to take care of the grateful hearted, right? Allah is going to take care of the grateful hearted. And so I am reminded as I read this, how important it is for me to express appreciation every time I have an opportunity to, right? Every time I have an opportunity to. And again, not just to Allah, because what does Allah say? That the expressions of gratitude should not be limited just to Him. That part of our responsibilities as a Muslim, as a community of Muslims, is to be grateful to those around us, right? To be grateful to those within our community, right? And so we have to ask ourselves, right? Am I expressing gratitude with sincerity, right? Am I even giving the greetings with sincerity, right? When I say assalamu alaikum, right? Am I giving that with a degree of sincerity? Like, am I giving it with love? If I'm giving it with that human connection that Allah wants us to establish with those that we are in community with, right? The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, he who does not thank people does not thank God, right? So, those who are unwilling to express gratitude to their brothers or to their sisters, right? Allah frowns on those individuals. Allah frowns on those individuals. But it's important, again, that everything that we do is done with a level of sincerity, right? So we want to thank our brothers and our sisters just as if we are thanking Allah, right? We want to love on our brothers and sisters in our community just as we love Allah. That's required of us as Muslims. And again, sometimes it's difficult for us to think about that. And so I pray that Almighty Allah uses me to share these words in a way that hopefully resonate with you, so that we can understand that there's tremendous power. There's tremendous power in gratitude. And you can't call yourself a Muslim if you're walking around with an ungrateful heart. You can't do that. Right? The two just don't align with one another. Now we can say that we are working towards Like I am working towards being more grateful. I am working towards being more sincere, right? But you can't on one hand say, you know, hey, I'll make all my prayers and I'll wear the thobe and I got the kufi on, right? Because Allah knows what's in our hearts. So you can look the part. You can win a best actor award for being Muslim based on the performative actions that we take as a Muslim, right? But the reality is, if you don't have a grateful heart, and Allah knows what's in our hearts, right? If you're not moving, you're not living with a grateful heart, Allah knows. There is no fooling Allah. There is no pulling the veil down over the eyes of Allah because He sees all things. And right, so this is a reminder, right, that it is in your best interest, in our best interest collectively, to be ones who express a grateful heart and express gratitude on a day-to-day basis. Now, what does all this mean? What does all this mean? And I've been processing this and thinking about this a lot. And I'll say what it means to me, and I don't know if this is going to resonate with you all. But what it means to me is that Allah has given us the master key, right? There's a lot of books about, how to improve your life. There's all these self-help, there's a whole self-help book industry, right? You can type in self-help books in Google's and probably get 15 million book titles. You can go on Amazon, it has its own sort of category, right? So we know that people have and will continue to write, books about how to improve one's condition in life. And it's so funny, man, when you think about when you pray for clarity and pray for understanding, how you begin to see things that maybe you didn't see before. And I'll tell you, when I was preparing for today's Talim, what became clear to me is that Allah has given us the master key, that He's given us Islam. He's given us this beautiful Quran. And I'm talking to you, but I'm really talking to myself, that I don't need to go read 700 self-help books. I don't need to watch a bunch of TED Talks. I need to read the Quran. Because the Quran lays out exactly what I need to be doing and the ways that I need to be comporting myself as a human being, as a Muslim. He's given me everything. Allah has given me everything I need to know in that book, in Hadith, in Sunnah, right? All of that's there for me. That's all the self-help that I need. If I can lean into that, right? Allah says, look, I'm going to take care of you if you got a grateful heart. What else you need to hear? What else do we need to hear? That Allah will take care of us. And forgive us of our sins and our shortcomings and our failings, as long as we come to Him with gratitude and sincerity. Man, that is so easy, right? When you think about it, it's so easy. It's so clear. It's so clear. You don't need a Rosetta Stone to understand that. You don't need to take classes in Arabic to understand it. It's so clear. But the reality is, in actual life, right, in practice, right? So there's the intellectual side of that, which is super clear, at least it is to me. And then there's the practitioner side of it, right? There is the, how do I go out and actually live this? How do I operationalize this reality? How do I make this real? And that's where those reminders come in. That's where, again, Salat is so important. That's where the reading of the Quran is so important, because built into those experiences, Allah has laid out like this. These are the 5 things that you must do. This is how you actualize your Muslimness, if you will. I'm gonna tell you the things you need to do to be a Muslim. If we do those things and we do those things with sincerity, then we got the key. Allah has given us the key, right? He's given us what we need to do to feel better about ourselves. And I'm going to share with you in just a few minutes just how beautiful this is, right? Because when we look at the science of gratitude, and some of you who listened to this presentation last year, right? When we look at the science of gratitude, there's so many benefits from it. Like, not just, I kind of feel better. No, like I'm going to walk through the benefits, the real benefits that have been researched and empirically proven, right? The benefits of gratitude. Allah says it all throughout the Quran. I'm going to give you the medicine that you need. I got a panacea. Imagine if we lived in a world when everyone was grateful. Imagine if we lived in a world where everybody lived in the moment, right? That peace that Imam Rabbani was talking about, right, comes from being fully present, right? Because when you think about the past, you have your regrets. When you are thinking about the future, you worry. And I'm speaking from experience. I'm a worry wart, right? I'm a worry wart. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night worried about the presentation I got to make, 2 weeks from now. That's just how my brain is wired. And I'm working on that, right? I'm really working on that, right? Because I recognize, at least at an intellectual level, I recognize that the peace that I'm searching for, the peace that Allah is giving us through this beautiful deen of Islam, is in the present, it's in the moment. It's being thankful that I can breathe. It's being thankful that I have sight, that my eyelids work, right? It's being thankful that I can stand up on 2 feet, right? That I can bend my knees to make salat. Those are the things that are important. But like so many people, I get wrapped up in stuff that really ain't important, right? Things that have nothing to do with whether or not I'm becoming a better Muslim. Nothing to do with this deen, right? So that says something about me that I got to work on, that I have to be focused on. What are the things that's going to help me become a better Muslim? Those are the things I need to be waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning about, not whether or not this presentation I got to deliver to this group of principals is going to be good. It's am I pleasing Allah? Does Allah count me amongst those who are most grateful? Right? Does Allah count me amongst those who are thankful for the blessing? Does Allah count me amongst those who recognizes that there is no success without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And if I'm counted amongst that group, then I'm good. I can go and bomb that presentation. Everything else is going to take care of itself. Right? But I understand there are some real barriers to us being able to express gratitude the way that we sometimes want to. So look, what I'm going to do now is I want to talk to you about a couple of these things, and I've seen it written somewhere, and it really resonated with me. So I want to just bring to your attention what I like to call the thieves of thankfulness. Right? The thieves of thankfulness. So when we start to think about what's getting in the way, what's getting in the way of us being thankful, what's getting in the way of us being able to live in the moment, and be happy that at 1:42 p.m. Central Standard Time in Chicago on November 13th, 2022, that I'm blessed. Right? What's getting in the way of me reconciling that, coming to the understanding that this is super, super important, that right now in this moment, I'm blessed. And guess what? Nothing else matters. I remember we were still in the midst of the pandemic, and there was a brother who came and served as khatib at one of our Jumas, and he said something that really struck me, man. It was like he punched me in my chest. He said, the future is none of your business. Woo, mind blown. The future is none of your business. Again, there's some freedom and some liberation in that. There's freedom and liberation in knowing that, hey, I don't have any really real control over my future, right? Who knows what's going to happen 5 minutes from now? But in this moment, I have peace, and I'm grateful and I'm thankful for everything that I have in this moment. I'll talk to, and I promise I'm gonna move on, but I often talk to Brother Roosevelt after Juma. We're sitting at the table. It's one of the things I love about our community is we kind of sit in community and just talk. And I'll ask Brother Roosevelt, I'll say, are you having a good day? And he'll look at me in my eyes and say, I never had a bad one. Now, this is a Black man born in America, right? He's been through some experiences, and of course, he's had to overcome some obstacles. But when he says that, what he's saying is, when he looks at the aggregate of his life experience, hey, he's in a good place. Because in that moment, right, he's in a community of Muslims, right? We are at Juma. We are thankful, and we're showing and expressing our gratitude to Almighty Allah. And so when I hear him say that, I get power from that. It's almost like eating a Pac-Man power pellet, right? He said, I never had a bad one. Right? Because he's here, he's in this moment. And so when we look at our lives, no matter what we've been through, we're grateful for the good and the bad. Just like Imam Jihad said, look, sometimes what we think is a punishment is really a purification, right? That everything we've gone through in our past is just preparing us. So we got to be grateful for all of that, the good and the bad, right? We got to be grateful for the good and the bad, the births and the deaths, right? Right? The stress and the joy. Because all of that shapes us into who we are. And if we don't experience those things, right, then we're not who we are, right? If we don't experience the things that we've experienced in the past, then it's not going to shape us. It would not have shaped us into the person that we are, right? So that's the blessing of even those bad times. But let me talk to you about the thieves of thankfulness: envy, materialism, narcissism, and cynicism. And I won't take any time. We all know what these words mean. We know what it means to be envious, to sort of cherish someone else's goods, and what they've accomplished, and materialism, being caught up in the cars and the jewelry and the furniture and the bling bling and all. We know what those things are. Like, we don't have to spend a lot of time on that. We know what narcissism is, right? We know what cynicism is, right? We know that cynical people always assume that folks have ulterior motives for stuff. Everything they do, there's some ulterior motive or some sort of undercurrent that they're working through, right? We live in a materialistic nation. We know what that is. If for us, in this country, it's all about the bling bling, which you can buy and which you can show on social media. And this is the part that I want us to be mindful of, right? When we start thinking about, when we talk about the thieves of thankfulness, right? Well, what's getting in the way of us being able to live, not just come to Salat, but live our lives with a grateful heart, to wake up every morning and just, whoo, I'm thankful I'm alive. What gets in the way of that? What gets in the way of that? And what gets in the way of it is social media, in large part. Mass media, right? When we think about narcissism, I can't think of a more narcissistic place than social media, right? Someone help me out. Maybe there's other things on social media that maybe are good, or obviously being able to connect with people and all those things. I don't want people to think that I only think that social media is a bad thing. But when we think about where materialism and narcissism and envy live, when I read this, the first thing that came to my mind was social media. That we get trapped, right? In Instagram, we get trapped on Facebook, we get trapped on TikTok, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. All of us, right? Nobody is free from this. I was talking to a brother the other day. He said, look, man, social media ain't nothing but digital dope, right? That's what it is. That's an addiction, and we all suffer from it. And so when we think about the barriers, right? When we think about what we consume, and, again, I've had conversation with brothers in the past about how Ramadan is not just about the absence of food, right? It's not about the absence of food. It's about being mindful of what you consume, right? Yes, we consume food with our mouths, but we also consume information with our eyes and our ears, right? We have to be mindful of what we are exposing ourselves to. And so I want to detach. I want to reject anything. Like, this is where my mind is. I want to reject anything that's going to get in the way of me being able to live my life with a grateful heart, because I understand the benefits of living with gratitude. And so I want to be careful that if I get on Twitter and I start to feel envious, I got to back away from it. If I get on LinkedIn and I start to feel envious, I gotta back away. If I get on LinkedIn and I start to feel narcissistic, if I start to think that the world revolves around me, I gotta check that. Because I don't want to fall victim again to these thieves of thankfulness, right? I don't want anything to put me in a way, put me in a spirit where I am questioning the blessings that Allah has bestowed upon me, where I'm looking depressed and down in the dumps and saying, well, why can't I have what so-and-so has? How come I didn't get that promotion? How come I don't have that car? How come I don't have that, fresh gold chain? Like, I don't want to be in a state where I'm like that. And what I find, and maybe some of you feel the same way, I find that when I'm on social media, I don't like how it makes me feel. Right? I don't like how it makes me feel. And I'll give you an analogy or a similar experience. I remember I had a really bad sinus headache one day, and I had to go to the emergency room. I mean, this was the worst sinus headache I had ever had. And one of the medicines they gave me to help ease the pain was Ritalin. And I remember laying in the triage room with my wife and just not feeling good. Like, that just didn't make me feel good. I can't do this. This is uncomfortable for me. I literally sat up in my bed and say, I don't want this anymore, because I don't like the way it makes me feel. I feel the same way about social media. And some of us also experience the same thing, but we're so addicted to it, we can't even stop it. Right? We can't even stop it. So I encourage you, and again, as I'm reminding you, I'm reminding myself, I encourage you to think about what's happening in your life that might be getting in the way of you having a grateful heart. And not just when you make Salat, not just during Ramadan, not just when you at Jummah, right? It's easy to be grateful when you're around people who you love and who you adore and who you want to spend time with, and you just made prayer and community, yeah, like your dopamine, your serotonin is an all-time high because of the environment that you're in. The question is, how do we duplicate that outside of Juma? Right? How do we duplicate the intensity, right, of that level of that feeling of gratitude when we are outside of Juma, when we are not around, because all of us work, right? All of us have lives outside of the masjid, right? Alhamdulillah, right? We have to make a living for our families. We find ourselves working in different environments, in different industries, and that's what makes us beautiful and brilliant, right? The question is, though, how do we manufacture that type of intensity of gratitude when we're not in the presence of the imams, right? How do we do that? How do we make sure that we don't get trapped on this or become addicted to this digital dope that we call social media, that's eating away at our hearts and our minds and making us less grateful? You know, I go on LinkedIn and I just laugh, man, because I see people with this fake humility, right? They have this big picture of themselves getting an award or whatever, or doing something. They're like, you know, I'm so humble and so honored to have it. Come on, man, right? Like fake humility. That's how I see it, right? Like what you're really saying is, see me, look at me, see me doing great things. Ha, look at me, I'm on top of the world. That's narcissism to me, right? You don't have to agree, but I am uncomfortable with that. Don't look at me, because I'm not the reason why I'm here. I'm not the reason why I've accomplished the things that I've accomplished. I'm nothing without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't put the camera in my face. Don't take a picture of me, right? Yeah, acknowledge the accomplishments for sure. Acknowledge it, yeah. Thank you, I'm glad that you're proud of me. But for me to be all on social media, look at me, I'm at the restaurant, oh, look at this lobster mac and cheese I just ate. Why? Why? For what? Why do I need to document every part of my life, right? Why do I want to read the documentation of someone else's life, right? Like all these things, people that, you know, on social media, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, taking video of them feeding the homeless. What do you want people to do? Like pat you on the back for doing something that we all should be doing? Again, it's that narcissism, right? Is that true gratitude? I don't know. That's between that person and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't know what's in that person's heart. All I know is we have to be careful, right? We have to be careful of being lured into a state of ingratitude, and we have to recognize that there are tools out there that are being used against us to keep us in a state of ingratitude. We are being pushed to use these tools of technology, right? These of thankfulness, right? That lead us down a path where we start to question whether or not we are as blessed as we are, right? I don't want to go down that path. I don't want to become someone who's always comparing. You know the saying, comparison is a thief of joy. The minute you start comparing your life to someone else's life, you are essentially saying, I am no longer wanting to be in a state of joy, right? Now I want to be unhappy. I want to go to the sunken space, right? So we got to be mindful of these things that's out there, right? We talk about how the shaitan lures us with the fear of poverty. But the shaitan is using social media against us all the time, right? Because he's taken us here, right? We're becoming more materialistic. We're becoming more narcissistic. We're becoming more cynical. We're becoming more envious because of these tools, these global tools you can't get away from. You know, when people say, you ask me, are you on Facebook? No, I'm not on Facebook. What? You ain't on Facebook? Like it's something crazy, like I'm an alien, right? But that's because we've been socialized, right, into believing that we must bow down, right, to these applications. And we know that the shaitan is using them against us. They're breaking up our families, breaking up our communities, right, and pulling us further away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to end with a couple things because I'm running out of time. And again, I apologize for the late start, for the confusion this afternoon. And I'm thankful that you all are here. But I just want to say a couple things that we can start to do as it relates to expressing more gratitude. But I'm going to start with the benefits. So look, here are for those who can see my screen, here are the common health benefits of gratitude, right? So we talked about the spiritual benefits, right? But we're talking about the physical benefits as well, right? So folks who deal with chronic pain, right, can benefit from the expression of more gratitude. People who deal with a lack of energy can benefit from the expression of gratitude, right? It reduces depression. It reduces anxiety. It improves the quality of your sleep, right? It reduces inflammation. It enhances your self-esteem. It releases dopamine and serotonin. It allows you to develop more positive relationships with family and friends. It gives you the desire to be helpful to others. It reduces feelings of jealousy, because it's hard to be jealous of someone. It's hard to be envious of someone else when you are secure in the blessings that you have. Right? When you wake up every morning and you say, man, these are the 5 things I'm thankful for, right? You're not going outside looking at somebody else and what they got and being envious, right? I'm thankful for my hoopty, because my hoopty is going to get me from point A to point B. Would it be nice to have the Range Rover? Yeah, but my price range ain't Rover right now, so I'm gonna get in this hoopty, right? And I'm gonna keep it moving. I'm thankful for it, right? Because I could be walking down the street when it's 25 below zero. Right? It's so hard to be in a sunken place, right? When you are connected and in tune with all the things you have to be grateful for. So here's a couple of things that we can do. We can start doing these right now, and it won't cost you any money. Right? It won't cost you any money. It might cost you a little bit of time, right? But you don't have to have any kind of special training to become a more grateful person. And I shared these last year this time when we were discussing this, right? The first is, and I mentioned this already, like, be mindful of what you consume. You know, the average person spends 3-4 hours on social media, right? What are you doing? You're looking at people who are taking selfies of themselves or filming themselves doing, you know, things, I guess, to engender laughs or whatever. And again, I know people use social media for positive things as well, to grow their businesses and to build a network. And I want to acknowledge and honor that. Like, that's important. But be mindful of what you're consuming, right? If you are a person who goes on Twitter to get their news, cool. But, you know, sometimes we get trapped in looking at cat videos, or we get trapped looking at all other kind of crazy stuff that, again, pulls you away from Allah. And again, what we want to be talking about here when we start talking about gratitude is, what are the things that I can do that's going to actually bring me closer to Allah? Like, that's our goal, right? To be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So be mindful of what you consume, right? Again, make salat with a grateful heart. Simply said, I come to you, Allah, with a grateful heart, and feeling it. Again, you don't have to make salat. You get to make salat. It's a different way of looking at it, right? We've been blessed with this way of life, right? I mentioned this before, keeping a gratitude journal. Some people don't like the journal, right? But you can simply take a notebook out. Again, wake up in the morning, jot down 5 things you're grateful for. Before you go to bed, jot down another 5 things you're grateful for, right? It puts you in a different state of mind. And then it was really cool if you go back a couple months later and look at, what was I grateful for on October 7th, 2021? Oh man, like, I remember that. Like, there's power in that. You know, it just fills your heart, right? In ways that social media cannot, right? I actually gave this assignment to some principal leaders that I was working with, right? So that they got in the habit of expressing more gratitude. Call somebody, text someone, email someone. For our old school folks, right? Write a letter, put a stamp on it, send it out to someone who's had a positive impact on your life. There's power in that, right? Expressing gratitude. And here's what we know. Here's what the science of gratitude tells us. It tells us that not only does the recipient of the gratitude benefit, right? Who doesn't want to hear, hey, you've had a positive impact on my life, but you as the giver also benefit from it. And lastly, speak your gratitude. Like, say what you're grateful for. When you're talking to friends and family, say what you're grateful for. When you sit down and share and break bread together, say what you're grateful for. Say it out loud. Nobody has to be around. Man, I thank Allah for this home that I'm in. It's you know, it's 25 degrees or 37 degrees outside right now, and I'm standing in the house with heat. Like, man, I'm grateful for that, right? I'm grateful that I can just walk in the kitchen and open up the refrigerator and get something to eat. Like, I'm grateful for that. There's a lot of people who can't do that, right? So when we sit still and we think about all the blessings that Allah has bestowed upon us, there's no way that we can be sad. There's no way that we can be envious. There's no way we can be narcissistic. There's no way we can be cynical, because we're living Allah's blessings. We bear witness to Allah's blessings. And I'll end by saying this, right? Islam and gratitude, indispensable, right? Gratitude, we're reminded of the importance of gratitude throughout the Quran. Allah reminds us over and over again. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why it keeps coming up. If it wasn't important, we wouldn't get 15 references, at minimum, 15 references to gratitude and the importance of gratitude in the Quran. So I pray that Allah continues to bless us and bless our community. I pray that you were able to get something from what I said today. If I spoke in error, know that that's from me. That all the good that was received by you came from Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I thank you all for your time. And again, I apologize for being late. I'm going to stop here, but if you have questions, please feel free to raise your hand. I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share. I see Dr. Gloria has her hand raised. Go ahead, Dr. Gloria.
Yes, assalamu alaikum. Imam Dr. Lionel Allen, thank you. What an amazing presentation. And it really spoke to my heart. And so it's obviously more of a comment than a question, but I appreciate your words of wisdom. It really spoke to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah. Thank you. All praise be to Allah. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Thank you all so much for the positive feedback in the chat. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close out with Walasa. And again, thankful that we are able to come together. It's always a blessing. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Brother Imam, did you want to say something? I can't hear you, brother. I think you're muted. Oh, okay. Yes, you connected now. Okay.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Yeah, I just wanted to echo that beautiful presentation. Yeah, beautiful presentation. I'm going to also say that we have to get you a gold chain. You mentioned the gold chain earlier on. Something just to show some gratitude. So this is exactly what we needed. Alhamdulillah, thank you.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, brother. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Lionel, for that beautiful presentation. It really spoke to my heart, man. I definitely appreciate you.